Hey, thanks for joining me once again. I wanted to share some of my thoughts on negotiating a salary for either your first job out of college or maybe your next job, whichever would be applicable. So keep in mind, if you're fresh out of school, you don't have a ton of bargaining power. I went through this exercise with a good friend of mine who is quite a bit younger than I am. He was fresh out of school. He was offered a starting salary of $50,000 annually for his first opportunity graduating from college. That's pretty good money, especially for somebody who worked, as a waiter and doing a couple of other jobs during college. That's way more money than he's made at any other time in his life. But he had a number stuck in his head that he wanted to hit, and he wanted to negotiate with his hopefully future employer to get more money to start with. So he called me for some advice. And I told him, you don't have a whole lot of ground to stand on negotiating a starting salary. You don't have any experience. There's lots of other candidates. Don't mess it up by trying to get a certain number to make you feel better about that number. It's a lot less money in your pocket than you realize. And that's what I wanted to share today. So I wrote out some numbers ahead of time. $50,000 was the annual salary, okay? Unfortunately, you are going to lop 33% of that right off the top for taxes, FICO, all the other things that get pulled out of your paycheck before you ever see it. That is a whopping $16,500 a year that comes out of your paycheck and goes right to the government before you ever see it. Shocking but true, I know. So that leaves you with $33,500 as your take-home pay. So if you divide that by 26 paychecks, meaning you get paid twice a month, that means that your take-home pay is $1,288.30. Now, that's not bad. Again, every 2 weeks, considering that you were scrounging a living as a college student recently, and now all of a sudden you're making some real money. Not bad. The problem with negotiating is, again, there's a lot of other people lined up. You may barely have eked out the opportunity to be the first candidate that they make an offer to. Don't blow it by trying to squeeze another $5,000 out of that employer. Here's why. So let's look at the other side of the board. $55,000 as a starting salary. Take the 33% off the top. That's now $18,150 that's going right to Uncle Sam before you get your paycheck. That means your take-home pay is $36,850. Divide that by 26 paychecks, again, getting paid twice a month, your take-home pay is now $1,417 a month. You know what the difference is between those two annual salaries? $128 a paycheck. That's it. $128 a paycheck. So that means for about $250 a month, you are risking blowing a $50,000 opportunity a year. That's why you should be really diligent about doing the math on negotiating a salary or things like that, because over the long haul of the course of a year, it's not that much money. It really isn't. So don't risk drawing a line in the sand and blowing an opportunity from an employer because you want more money. What my suggestion to his was, to my friend's scenario, was that take the job offer, but you want a caveat of getting a review at 6 months instead of a year, which was this company's policy. They said he would be eligible for a raise annually. So he went in and said, I accept your offer with one contingency. I would like a review at the 6-month mark and be eligible for what would be the annual percentage raise if I'm meeting or exceeding your criteria. The employer didn't see any problem with that because it's up to the employer's discretion of whether or not he is meeting the criteria to warrant more money. So 6 months rolls around. It went by in a hurry. He was not noticing the difference in his paychecks from the amount that he had in his head versus what he was getting paid. And sure enough, at the 6-month mark, he was doing a very good job, and they gave him the bump that would have been waited for, that he would have been waiting for at a year as a review. So now every 6 months, he is getting a review because that's in his employee contract instead of annually. So he's getting raises twice as often, or I should say he's eligible for raises twice as often as his coworkers. This means that in a very short time, he will be making a lot more money than he was holding out for. And he made it as fair as possible for the employer to make sure that they were not writing a check for somebody that was not proving if they had any value to the company yet. He flipped that script and proved to them that he was worth more money in a shorter amount of time than they typically allow. That meant that the employer was happy with his output and the quality of work that he was doing, and he was rewarded for that every 6 months. And so he is now making quite a bit more money in the 2.5 years he's been there than what he would have originally negotiated for. If the employer was unhappy about that, felt like they were being painted into a corner kind of a thing, his first annual review may not have warranted a raise. But because he made it employer friendly and wasn't greedy for himself, but put it on himself to prove his value to the company, and if he did, then get rewarded for it, everybody was happy. So keep that in mind when you're doing your negotiations. Don't get stuck in your head that your number is what you need to settle for and you're not going to take less. If you are in a financial situation where you have to make a certain amount of money, please see one of my other personal finance videos, or consider taking the job and working part-time elsewhere to cover that gap until you get your finances in order. But it's a big leap of faith from the employer's side to pay you a starting salary with little to no experience other than college classroom experience. So keep that in mind. Be smart, do the math, do the negotiations appropriately, and earn your way to the money that you want to make. I'll have more videos on this kind of thing coming up, so please tune in. If you have any questions, hit me up on darrenchatter.com and shoot me an email, or through my LinkedIn profile as well. And of course, while you're here on the YouTube channel, please hit subscribe and share this video with anybody that you think could benefit from this information. As always, thanks. I appreciate your time.